Welcome to the Practice Podcast, a show created by lawyers to help lawyers in life and business without all the complicated lawyer language. Let's welcome Bast Amron founders and your hosts, Jeff Bast and Brett Amron.
Are we on?
Nelson did normally he does a countdown, but this one was a little delayed.
Very slow and gradual. I was hesitant.
Fine. We're fine.
Are we okay?
He's asking me. You're asking me if we're on?
Are we okay?
Not our best start, but...
No, I think it is. Actually,
okay.
It might be.
We're recording this at the end of in December.
It seems like it is a holiday today.
We're coming to
like
the
a holiday,
end.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have any other podcasts coming up before the end of the year, but I'm guessing this is going to be...
Well, they may be released, but I'm not sure we're recording any additional podcasts for the rest of the year.
Maybe we should talk about this kind of procedural stuff offline, right?
No, I think our listener really wants to hear that.
Okay, well...
Hopefully we have 2 listeners next year.
We are recording this with a view towards releasing it as a first episode of 2025. So it's a recap on 2024 and a start to 2025. So my question to you is, what do you want to do better or more of in 2025?
Well, I want to do everything better.
Is that possible? I mean, when you're at the pinnacle, I'm not sure that's possible.
Well, I know it's hard. No, I mean, listen,
is there something you want to do more or do better?
Well, do more of, that's different, right? But do better? Like, I mean, if you're ever at a point where you're like, yeah, I'm good with that, then you should move on to the next thing, in my humble opinion. Because otherwise, then you're just kind of going through the motions.
What does that mean if you're good with that?
Well, like if you get to a point where you feel like I can't take a better deposition than I'm taking now, right? Then you're not the next deposition. You're like, I got this. I can do it with my eyes closed. Doesn't matter, right? As opposed or preparing for a hearing and go to a hearing.
Unless you're Michael Phelps, I don't think you ever get to that point where you can't.
No, but you asked me. And so my view is I always want to try and be better than the last time out.
Right.
Whatever that is, whether it's a deposition, a hearing, a meeting, whether it's, drafting a document, doing a podcast, whether it's, and maybe some of the listener within that is not the right one. But we'll be better next time.
After this one.
After this one. A run, a bike, like I always want to try and do better, for whatever reason. It doesn't mean I'm going to be faster. It doesn't mean it just means do something better, focus on something better. And that's why you try hard, right?
Maybe it's the wrong question, because the idea of even doing a deposition better, I mean, they're all different, right? So is there one that's better than another?
No, but I know for me, if I'm done with the deposition or hearing, I always reflect on things that I think may have gone wrong, even if I prevail, or I could have done better, or could have done differently.
Right. That's the thing, is differently. And we always have this idea, because I think we both do that same thing. We walk out of court and we said, I could have said this, I should have said that. Right. I could have done this differently, but we have no idea if those different things would have led to a different outcome or a better outcome. It could have been a worse outcome. Sometimes you think, I could have said this, but maybe the judge would have said, well, wait a minute. Now that you say that, it's causing me to rethink this whole thing.
Oh, yes, of course, right? You don't know unless you try it, right, at that time. Right. But it may give you ideas based on comments from the court or a ruling from the court or whatever happens to say, okay, well, maybe next time I should do this. Right. Or, boy, that was a little clunky the way I introduced that exhibit.
Right.
Here's what I could have done differently or better next time. Or I'd use this exhibit, maybe I didn't need to. I could have, so it's just different things that I think that's what makes you better.
Right. Striving. I think the idea is
always striving.
This idea of better is, I guess it's like, the more I think about it, it's a bad question, because
you didn't ask
what's
perfect.
To say?
You didn't ask perfect.
But I think, what do you want to improve on? Maybe. But even that, because I'm not sure that it's, life is a continuous series of improvements, hopefully. Yeah. You're always advancing in some way, but maybe it's that you feel
you're either
better.
Growing or you're dying.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
Maybe it's that you feel better about how it went, that you want to feel better, because, like you said, we don't know. We never know that one thing would have been better than the other.
Yeah, and maybe it's not, harping is not the right word, but maybe it's not focusing so much on the past, right? Like something happened, move on.
But that's something I'm working on.
I'm working on it a lot, but I do think that actually informs the future, the present and the future looking back. It doesn't mean that you have to dwell on it. It doesn't mean that you have to have regret.
Yeah.
And I've worked on that over the years. I think you asked me this question once in a podcast. What do you regret?
Yeah.
And I really have I've evolved on that and said, I don't really want to regret anything. I think everything is an experience. If I made a mistake, I want to learn from that mistake, and that was the experience that I had. Instead of regretting it, it's like, okay, well, I did that. I can't go back and change it. Let me learn from it.
Right. Yeah.
So, instead of living with regret, like if you live with regret, it's hard to move forward.
Right. It's just we're not very good. We think we're good at looking back and reflect. We think we're good at predicting outcomes, but we're actually really not that good. We don't know. And what we do is I'm reading a book about this very topic, actually. We reflect back on things.
Can you predict how it ends?
We reflect back on things and then think, oh, I knew that. I knew that was going to happen, because, hindsight's 20/20, but we didn't know and we never know. And you never know if you made some decision differently, if that would have been a better outcome.
Yeah. What do you want to improve on, Mr. Bast? Or I do better?
I want to minimize regret. I want to be a better listener. I've been working on that. I want to stay positive. I want to, swim more, play guitar more, spend more time with my family, with my wife, with my business partner, with Nelson.
Threw that in there. Oh, shit. He's staring at me.
Brett was looking at me.
Damn.
Like, what didn't
No,
he
I
say
want you
that?
to spend less time with me. And that's not because we don't get along and that we don't enjoy each other's company, but...
And I want to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So,
I agree with that.
I think we are, as
starting
we reflect
to do that.
on this year, we've had a tremendous year, our best year yet, by far.
Yep. On a lot of fronts.
On a lot of fronts. Right. We are in growth mode. Our people are, I think the firm culture is at a high. You walked around, we had a Thanksgiving lunch. I don't know if we talked about this, but during the course of the Thanksgiving lunch, we always go around and reflect on what each person is thankful for. And what we learned, and not that we learned, we knew this already, but we have several sets of people, staff, employees in the firm that have become best friends, and their families have become best friends. And what better marker a culture of collaboration than becoming best friends with your coworkers and colleagues?
Yeah, and one of the things that we noted around the table, we had a few people who were new to the firm and highlighted and appreciated and were thankful for being welcome with open arms to the firm, which I think speaks volumes of the culture that we have, cultivated and the team has cultivated over the years.
Agreed.
Is to have that and have people actually express that. It is never without tears. There's always a few tears, and there were again this year.
I shed a tear this year.
Which I know you did. I'm proud of you for doing that.
First time ever.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Maybe at Thanksgiving may have been at our Thanksgiving lunch. It might have been your first time.
That could be.
And I'm proud of you for that. But I think it also, again, how many businesses or firms would you go to where people feel comfortable enough,
safe,
to be able to sit around a table with their colleagues, fellow workers, and
be honest.
Be honest, be vulnerable, and cry and shed a tear.
No, I agree. I listened recently to, we just released it this week, Bo Yancey, the episode of this podcast with Bo Yancey on it. And
actually,
one of the things we talked about, it came out today. Well, then it was recent. It was today. We were talking about cultural alignment. And the importance of being intentional. And I think we've always been intentional, and we are very much aligned in the culture here. So I love our trajectory, the firm's trajectory.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we have spread our wings both locally, statewide, and also, throughout the country.
Right.
And I think 2025 will be no different. I think we'll continue in that vein.
Sure. Yeah.
There will always be challenges, as there always are, but I think we've got a good team to overcome those challenges. And I think I agree with you, work smarter, not necessarily harder.
Right.
You may have to work harder in various aspects,
right?
But working smarter, and when we've learned to do that, and we have over the years, but it's still sort of focusing on that.
Yeah.
And listening to, I agree with you. I'm a big proponent of that, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason.
Also, I learned also to add to that, because I always quote you on that, our mouth is closable. The ears are not closable.
Correct. Well, right, unless you fold them in. Right. But yes, and we also have 2 eyes.
Also closable.
To observe. Closable, right. But to observe, right? To listen, observe, and speak less. Nelson loved that one. He's laughing. You can't hear him.
My eyes and my mouth.
I think that is so important that people don't listen enough and observe enough because they just want to talk. And I think that you can learn so much about listening and observing. And even though I really do focus on that and highlight that, I think I can do better at that. And I think that we all can. And I think that moving forward in 2025, I think that's going to be a big thing that I'm going to focus on even more. And I'm going to try to voice that on younger people as well, right? Yeah. Like younger people always want to keep talking to show people, or they think show people how smart they are, how prepared they are, but you don't have to talk more to show that.
Right. Yeah.
You can talk effectively.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? And listen, observe, and talk effectively.
The challenge for me on the listening front, and I do think to some degree it's a product of our training, is not, that I'm working on, is not formulating my response while I'm talking to the other person. Because what happens
while you're listening.
While I'm listening, exactly. Exactly. You're right. While I'm listening. And I think it's, this is what we do in court. I'm listening to the other side, taking notes on what they're saying, but I'm also formulating my response. And when I'm doing that, I'm not listening as well. In a casual conversation, I have a tendency to do that too. Oh, you mentioned something and I'm going to say, oh, I read an article about that very topic. But just wait, Jeff. Just hang on. Chillax, relax. Let the other person finish, and then you'll chime in. Yeah. So I'm aware of it though. So
that's the first step.
Yes.
Is becoming aware
of my recovery, my listening recovery.
So what do you think 2025 will bring? Or actually, let me ask about before we leave 2024, do you have something in mind that would be your greatest success for the year? And I'll ask you a follow-up question while you're thinking about that, which is a lesson you've learned this year based on, and I hate the word failure or mistake, but like a lesson that you learned. By the way, the lesson could come from a success too, but one takeaway from the year.
I guess I have to go right to, they're both arise out of the same tragic circumstances. As you know, my daughter lost her boyfriend this summer in a tragic event, and is the worst experience of my life, continues to be. And I thought that I had an understanding of grief. I lost my mother as a child, but now I've learned I never grieved. I never went through a grieving process, but I kind of, obviously supported my daughter in the ways I thought appropriate. But then I thought I kind of wanted to help her move on. Like I wanted to help, engage with, other things, occupy her. And I learned that that's just not how grief works. I actually learned by reading a book, but the book opened my eyes and I pivoted my approach after reading and learning because I wanted to understand. It wasn't sitting right with me, how my approach of just kind of avoiding the topic. And I think that's what generally most people do when they encounter someone who's suffered a tragedy is, the tendency is you don't want to bring it up. You don't want to upset them, but it's up. The idea that you're bringing it up is just completely wrong. If you think that person's not thinking about it, they are. And by not saying something, you are saying something. You think, if somebody lost somebody, by not saying something, by not acknowledging it, you're, it's, they talk about the elephant in the room, but it's, you're not helping matters. You're actually making matters worse. So they want to, in general, people want to talk about the person that they lost, especially if it's somebody important to them. So I learned that. And at the same token, I think I also learned to appreciate how fragile life is and how grateful I need to be for everything I have. And, just the smallest things. Like I was talking about this just a couple of days ago. We were talking about gratitude. The fact that we're able to turn a faucet and water comes out and we drink that water, in large part, and that we can, that we wake up in the morning and we have air conditioning, we're able to get in a car. I had a flat tire on the highway last week on my way to court, and the FDOT road ranger pulled up right behind me a few minutes later, and the guy helped me pull up my, change my tire, and I just thought, like, how lucky am I? I'm so grateful that I have this, there's a team around. Like I'm grateful for you and my partnership and this firm that I have a team around me that helps me do all the things that we do. We do so much. And I recognize that you and I started this thing, and so we're largely responsible for all of it. But we could not do this. We would not have this podcast without this guy right here.
That's right.
So I don't know. I took us on a serious tangent there for a second, but
it wasn't a limited question.
I've learned to appreciate what I have more than ever. And I'm really focused on, as part of my meditation practice, awareness, and I'm looking up more. And I mean that in both ways. Instead of looking at my phone, looking up more, but also like looking up at the sky when I walk my dog, looking in different places than we typically look. I like to walk different paths, but even the way I look up at the sky now more. I'm just trying to observe the world around me and see it in new ways and appreciate everything.
I think we can end the podcast right there.
No, I've been thinking about this because I've been reflecting a lot this year.
Yeah.
It was a challenging year, but a good year in some respects and terrible in other respects. And God, I hope I never want anyone to go through what we went through and what we're going through. It's, I've learned a lot about grief. But I'll tell you, as an adult, watching my adult daughter lose somebody that she cared about deeply was much more painful than me as a child losing my mother. Yeah. Way more painful.
Sure.
I think because of who I am versus who I was. I was a kid. I'm not sure I had a full appreciation of the ramifications of what was happening.
Well, I think there's part of that, but you also feel for your child.
Right,
differently than you feel for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How about you? Sorry, I shouldn't have gone first.
No, I'd say, something that I do focus on, but I think I've doubled down and I think I have to continue to focus on it going forward. And the lesson is you can't always be the hero. You can't always, and I don't mean hero in the sense of like, Superman. I mean, I can't always give or offer to give a solution if somebody comes to me.
Yeah, I like it.
Whether that's a family member, children in particular, going through whatever they're going through, or a younger lawyer coming to you. A lot of times it's just, they either want to vent and they just talk to you. You're just there to listen to them. And sometimes, they're just not looking for a solution. They just want to vent. And sometimes you have to pull the solution out of them and get them to think about it. Because solving a solution for somebody, sometimes you have to do that, and that's okay because it's, but a lot of times if somebody is able to and is allowed to solve a solution for themselves, they will be much better off for it going forward, right? Because they'll have those skills, number one, and on that particular issue, whatever it is, they'll know that, okay, I worked through that and I'm able to move forward.
Yeah.
And, I've learned that tremendously this year, with all of my kids. A couple of them had some challenges with school or whatever it was, and just learning, sort of navigating when to just listen and when to jump in, when to help, when to just be a sounding board, when to, ask questions, be curious, not judgmental, and just ask questions and let them answer them and let them come to a point where they can make a decision and come to a solution. And so, that's been, I was taught, and something that I like recently and have learned over the years, but it's hard when you believe you know what the answer is, but it's hard to not just offer it. If somebody comes to you and says, well, what do you think I should do? It's very easy to say, well, here's what I think you should do.
Right.
But it's much harder to hold back and just say, well, hang on. Well, what do you think? And how about this? Like, what do you think about this? And why do you think that? And just go through all the steps with them.
Right.
And when I've done that, it's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And I've had times when, if one of my boys or even my daughter have come to me and said, they have an issue and they have whatever's going on in their life. And they've said, I'm not looking for a solution. I just need to vent.
Right. That's
taught me.
That.
They've said it to me.
Good on them for saying that.
100%.
I don't need, and sometimes I'll ask, how do you want me to show up?
Right.
Are you looking,
correct.
Are you looking for me to just listen, or do you want?
And I've started to do that as well after, having those interactions. I've started to do that. And I've started to do that here too with some of the younger lawyers, what are you looking for?
Right.
Because you don't know when they're coming to you. And again, that's part of being judgmental. You think initially if someone's coming to you, they're coming to you for a solution. They may not be.
Right.
So be curious, ask them, like you
Right.
said, how would you like me to show up here?
Yeah.
And I think that has, helped me and,
sure.
and relationships and
For
help,
sure.
and I hope helped the people that I'm interacting with.
I think, as you're saying that, I think that's very similar to, the thing that I said I learned. I put it in the context of grief, and like the real lesson is there to learn is that there's always another way of approaching something, and you think that this is the way. No, there's many ways, and so I love that idea, and I think it's so important. By not solving someone's problem for them, you're arming them, you're giving them the agency to solve their own problems and make their own decisions. And like this goes back to that whole better, discussion we started off with. There is no right or wrong decision, in most. I would say I would argue it.
Driving drunk versus not. Okay, wrong decision.
Not really a decision, but yes, I agree. I agree. I'll agree with that one. I'll agree with that one. And so it's not even about making the right decision. It's about making the decision right, like doing it the right way.
Or that is right at the time, right? Based on information that you have available, whoever's making the decision. So, and again, what may be a decision that somebody else wants to make or feels it's best for them, you may not think so, but ultimately it may be best for them. So, but it's ultimately for them to come to that decision. You can help guide them by your questions, by, providing some information here and there and some context. But ultimately, like you said, arming them with the capability to problem solve, to, make decisions, to challenge themselves, to figure things out. And they know that they have the ability to do that. And that is so valuable as you grow up. Yeah. Number one, as a child growing up, but number two, as a young lawyer, as a paralegal, as an adult,
as a human in this.
Well, as a human, right? I mean, you're right. And even before you have kids, before you get married, then you get married. Then before you have kids, then you have kids, and everything is new. And it's you remember staring at your firstborn child, and as they were born, you're like, what do I do here?
Holy shit!
Right? What do I do here? Right? And now it's like, of course, three kids, or they're adults, like they're grown, they're out of the house, all
Yeah.
So, and it's, you learn as you go, and that's part of it, but now you can do it because you've done it. So I think that is super helpful instead of, flying in and being the hero and fixing things, which is easier to do because I've been there, I know I can do it. Boom. It's more efficient for you as a, it is better in the long run. What I found, at least, is to help people make those decisions.
Right. Yeah. And I think that hero mindset is also something we've been trained to do too, because we get hired to do that, solve problems, solve people's problems. Like some clients call us and they're like, what should I do?
Well, that's all right.
I'd like to know what should I do?
Right.
Well, I can't tell you what to do. If you tell me what you want to do, I can tell you if we can accomplish it as a matter of law.
Right.
But as you're saying that, I agree with everything you said. The other thing is that I also learned that I'm not the only one. When one of the kids is struggling, to go back to Hannah, and sorry, Hannah, you'll have to give her approval before we release this episode. But shout out to my daughter, Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
For how she's handled this terrible situation. But it literally takes a village, and so I showed up in a certain way. Max did, and Micah did, and Jale did, and her friends and family and the community really, really showed up for them. And it's the same thing with the problem that an attorney is, attorney or an adult is going through, the kid is going through. They shouldn't. I hope your kids didn't just talk to you. I'm sure they talked to Lauren. I'm sure they talked to a friend.
Of course.
Maybe they have a therapist. There's so many different resources available to support ourselves in that. I guess this is the other thing I learned is that you don't have to go it alone. There is always someone who can help, support, and asking for help is so okay. Is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. And so learning that and teaching that, I think, is so important. People want to help.
Yeah.
I have found that, like, when you ask, how often have you asked someone for help and they're like, nah. Like, I can't think of an...
But you can, but if that happens, and maybe it does, occasionally it may happen, go to the next person.
There's somebody else.
There's somebody else that you can ask for help.
But I think
it's not like there's never a situation where there's no one.
Right.
That
sometimes you can't. It's difficult to see that.
Of course.
Or to realize that.
Of course.
And it doesn't even matter if that person, has been in that situation before or is an authority on the topic or whatever it is. Sometimes, like you said, sometimes they just need someone to vent to, right? And that's helpful. Just being an ear can be helpful.
So what do I want to do more of? I'll split it up professionally and personally. So personally,
I like it.
Easy, the easy ones off the top of the list are, spend more time with Lauren and the kids and when I can. And as everyone's sort of growing up and spreading their wings, it becomes harder. But do those things and have those experiences with them. I have already, and as it gets closer, we'll do it. But I've got a couple challenges that I'm endurance challenges I'm going to do in 25 that I've got on the calendar, and maybe add one or two more, and really just focus on doing those and experiencing those and some other adventures along the way. Professionally, for the firm, God, I want it to be even better year. I want us to, grow, but not just for the sake of growing. We want to grow, wisely as we've done over the years. And I think we have the ability to do that in 25. There's some stuff in the market I think we can take advantage of. I think we're primed to do that. I think Miami is primed to continue its growth and for us to sort of go along with that, but also making it for us and bringing up everybody here with us, right? With the firm and having them grow as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I should note that we're, on the podcast, we're in growth mode. So Brett just said it. If you are a young lawyer or a paralegal that wants to grow with a great, phenomenal team that is culturally aligned, cares about each other and collaborates, give us a ring.
And does really good work.
And I think top-notch work, and we take pride in that.
Did you mention paralegal too?
Paralegal and associate and attorney, yeah.
Yep.
And, we're having a great year, and we're going to reward our people this year. And so I think it's going to be a good year financially and a good year professionally. And I think 2025 is to infinity and beyond.
Our 16th year.
Yeah, 16 years.
We're in our 16th year. We'll complete our 16th year May 1. And then we'll start our 17th year.
Pretty amazing.
If you believe that. That's pretty, I remember, just as I was just sort of throwing it back for a minute, I remember when I first went out or we first formed, I was like, okay, if we're in business for 5 years, I feel good, right? Because most businesses, if they're going to fail within the first year, couple years, 5, whatever it is. So I'm like, okay, 5 years, I feel like we're pretty good if we make it. And here we are finishing 16, in 25 we'll start 17, which is pretty amazing. Yeah,
it's a testament to you and to this team that we've built.
It's a testament to you and all of us. I mean, everybody here and this podcast. We have some great plans for this podcast for 25, and I think we're going to be better on this podcast.
Be best. We are going to be
Don't
best.
Use that. Don't use that.
2025. Yeah, I'm excited about closing this year off and having a fresh start. I've been thinking about, your challenge. You remember last year I swam my longest distance on December 31st.
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking, actually on Sunday I swam longer than I usually do. It was such a nice day. I was like, let's keep going. Mm-hmm. I did like 2.6 miles instead of 2 miles. And I was like, on a nice day, I feel like I could just go, I'm going to do 6 miles. And I got to wait for the right conditions and see if I can go with the current. So, because last year I swam against the current, it took me twice as long and swimming back with it. But I haven't ruled it out.
Okay.
I'm going to try to squeak it in if I can.
Look forward to it.
But if I don't, I'm also not going to.
And I'm hoping to recruit Mr. Bast for one of my challenges.
Let's go. I'm ready. I'm going to slow you down, but I'm going to be like an anchor.
See if we can make that happen. And we'll report back on the podcast.
I'm looking forward to it. If you enjoyed this episode,
before you want
to say something before we close?
I want to wish everybody, because this will come out right after New Year's.
Okay, happy New Year.
So hoping everybody had a very happy and safe holiday season, and a happy and a healthy new year, and look forward to 2025 and a great year.
Yeah, happy, healthy, full of gratitude. I'm super grateful for this podcast, for this team, and you two gentlemen, and
Same.
whoever's listening. I am thankful that you made it this far. And if you enjoyed this episode, I hope you did. Leave us a 5-star review, subscribe, share the show with your friends and family, and we'll see you next time. Happy New Year. And if you enjoyed this episode, I hope you did. Leave us a 5-star review, subscribe, share the show with your friends and family, and we'll see you next time. Happy New Year.
For more information on this show and other resources, visit fastamron.com and connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram @FastAmron.